Hello and welcome to the Caregivers Collective, the podcast that brings together caregivers from all walks of life to share their stories, their struggles, and their victories. I'm Tangela, and I'm your host. And thank you for joining us today. Caregiving is a journey, one that can be both rewarding and overwhelming. But you don't have to walk it alone. So each week, we sit down with caregivers, with experts, and advocates to talk about real experiences. We'll offer valuable resources and the support that we all need. Today, I'm honored to welcome Dr. Marcel Williams to the Caregivers Collective. She brings a wealth of experience and insight. We'll talk about the challenges, the moments of joys, and the lessons that she's learned along the way. So grab a cup of coffee, take a deep breath, and settle in. This is the Caregivers Collective. Before we dive into our conversation, let me share a little bit about Dr. Williams and her journey. Born in Philadelphia, Dr. Marcel Williams is a dynamic leader, speaker, and consultant whose journey reflects a deep commitment to faith, to service, and empowering others. As an ordained elder, Dr. Williams serves in many leadership roles, including interim and senior pastor all over the world, from Japan and Korea to Louisiana, Arkansas, and Pennsylvania. Dr. Williams lives in Tampa, Florida, and she is the founder of My Faith Works, a ministry focused on helping individuals develop their God-given gifts and talents and to achieve excellence. She is also the founder of Faith Alliance Consulting, LLC, where she offers specialized guidance and support to parents of children on the autism spectrum. Through her business, she provides valuable resources and coaching for families who are navigating the complexities of autism, with a focus on building resilience and understanding. Dr. Williams is also the author of Raising Isaiah, an inspiring book where she shares her personal journey of raising a son with autism, challenging the perspective that autism is a disability, rather advocating that it is a difference to be celebrated. Not only does she hold a bachelor's degree in biblical and theological studies, but also in business management. She is a certified Christian life coach, committed to empowering families to thrive. Dr. Williams is deeply devoted to her family, including her 3 children and 4 grandchildren. Her life serves as an inspiring example of faith, leadership, and service, and she continues to make a lasting impact through her work with families and individuals worldwide. Please welcome Dr. Marcel Williams. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Caregivers Collective. I'm Tangela and I am your host today. Today we have a very special guest with us, Dr. Marcel Williams. In our introduction, you heard her bio, but as we introduce Dr. Williams, is there anything else that you think that we should know about you that we haven't heard about you? Come on and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, I'm Dr. Marcel Williams. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast today. There's nothing else. I think once we start talking, we'll get into other things about me, but there's nothing that I think I need to add to what you just said.
Okay. Well, let's give the folks a little bit of context. So honestly, Dr. Williams and I have been friends for a little while. Can you tell us a little bit about how long we've been friends? Because I know I will mess it up.
Yes, we met when I moved back to Philadelphia, and we met in 2012 at the church event. There was a big dinner, but we've been in the same church organization for a long time, but we didn't connect because the church is large, and we do see each other at the big convocation, General Assembly, as they called it. But I met you in the kitchen cooking, girl, and I like to eat. So you met me, didn't know my daughter was my daughter. At the church, so we met with the help of the Lord, and because you cook and I like food, that's really how we met, and we've been ever since. So the
Yeah,
Lord is good.
that is how we met. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I remember seeing you at a lot of conventions because, uh, as you heard in the intro about Pastor or Dr. Williams, she was stationed in Japan, and I would always see her at the conventions. And regardless of whatever was going on in her life, she was always excited, and you could always find her with a smile on her face. And it was years later that we actually finally officially met. Like she said, in the kitchen, I was cooking, and she likes to eat, and so there we are. So I know you're very busy. I know you have a very busy schedule, but I do want to thank you for taking the time to come on the show today. And I actually want to thank you because you are my very first guest interviewee for the Caregivers Collective podcast. So we're just going to jump right in. Now, I do know that you are, you're a mother and you're a caregiver, and your caregiving was for both your mother and your son who has Alzheimer's. So, but today, I think we're going to focus on your mother, your time as a caregiver with your mother, and we'll go from there. So, can you share with us a little bit about what led you to be your mother's caregiver?
Yes, absolutely. But you said my son has Alzheimer's, but he has autism.
You know what? I did say that.
It's okay, girl. But yeah, he's 29. He's 29. He only has, he's autistic. But yeah, absolutely. As you stated, I have traveled and lived a lot of places because of the military. But in 2011, I decided to make the choice to go back home. Now I do know it was God ordained for me to go back to my home of record, which is Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And in 2012, that year, my mother ended up having 3 strokes, and she was only, 60, almost 70 maybe at the time. But she was fine, but you don't know about people's health issues because we don't talk a lot about things that really are serious to us. We might say, I have a headache today or something like that. But my mom ended up having 3 strokes. Her first one was on Easter at the dinner after church in her house with her grandchildren and the other family members, and that was her first stroke. From there, she ended up having 3 more strokes, and then we found out it was also the early settlement of dementia, that she was also having, memory loss and just not knowing where she was, even wandering out the house and doing things like that. So in 2012 was the onset of me becoming a caregiver, or learning how, because I didn't think of me even as a caregiver in that terminology. But I know that I had to get her situated and see how to give the best care for her, not really knowing these are new waters to travel, so I didn't know all the ins and outs of what was going to come through the next couple of years.
Wow, that's something. So how long had you been away from your mom? You said when you came and you began to be a caregiver for? I actually left Philadelphia at 20 years old, and for 35 years I was gone, but I always came back to visit. No matter what, every year I come back home to visit.
my mom, my grandparents, my family. So for 35 straight years, I'm literally not living there anymore. And so in December 28th of 2011, I literally moved back home. I drive home with my son and my two dogs from Bossier City, Louisiana. And I drive home, and now I am back home to live, not even thinking that it was just for a period of time. So I get home in December, but in April, my mother has her first stroke. But before that time, no onset, just seeing her hanging out, doing things. But she ended up having her first stroke around on Easter. And that was the beginning of me realizing that, and a lot goes into that as well. My mother was raising my children, my sister's children, and there's a 12-year-old nephew that I also end up caring for while I'm taking care of my mom. And I have my son who is autistic on the spectrum. And also I'm in the middle of also I will say, I guess I'll use the word marital crisis, even at that time too. So I have all of these dynamics going on at one time. But my mother was my focus because she was mom, even though I have a son now and a nephew that I'm taking care of, and I'm navigating the waters of marriage.
Wow. Okay. Sounds like a lot. How did your family kind of take it when you stepped in? Because it kind of sounds like you kind of stepped in to be a caregiver. How did your family take it? I mean, they had been there all the time. And I know sometimes because I was gone, same thing, over 30 years. And in my case, when I stepped in, it was kind of almost like a relief for the family to have somebody else here that they didn't have to really do some of the things that they had been doing. How did your family respond to you when you stepped in kind of as a caregiver? Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I don't think it was much appreciated because these are young people. My mother had my sister's 3 children who are only, like I said, the youngest is 12. Then I have, I think, maybe 18, and the oldest might have been 20, in her early 20s. And then my brother was also there. So you can almost feel like you're coming in and taking over. And because you don't know everything, it's just my mom, I got to take care of her. To be honest, we never really talked about it, but if I look back, it could have seemed like I came in and I'm just running things and taking over and moving things and shaking things, whereas looking back, I could have probably maybe done things differently. Probably not, but to be honest, even with my brother was close. He was very close with my mom, but nobody's moving and everybody's talking, but nobody is bringing me options. Nobody is telling me, what can we do? How can they help? How can we keep her at home? How can nothing? So, but they never were disrespectful to me, but I can look back and see probably a little upset, or, how you going to come home and just start running things when we've been here? So, and they have that right. I don't judge that at all negatively. That's what I believe, that, if I asked them, I probably would get some feedback like that, because they live with my mom, and they were I call my nieces and nephews her second set of children. Okay. She had 4 of us, and then she has my sisters, and she had them from birth as well. So they were really her second set of children. Okay. But no one still knew what to do for her.
So do you think that how you did it, or that you did it? Because that kind of can make a difference. Was it that you came in, the idea that you came in, or how you came in? Because, I've known you for a little while, and your personality is a strong personality. And
oh, really?
So I guess my question is, was it how you did it? Because sometimes you have to come in and seem like you rule with an iron fist, because otherwise people will take advantage, not take you for granted. I guess that's the word I want to say. Take you for granted. You go, oh no, she's here. She's not gonna really, she's been in and out for the last 35 years. she's just talking, and maybe you felt like you had to come in and say, no, I'm for real about this, because I see what's happening with my mother or with my mom, and somebody needs to step up. So the original question was, do you think it was that you came in, or how you came in?
No, I don't even think it's. And this is my speculation, because I do know I'm very careful when it comes to other people being in a situation that I come into. I didn't come in with, I am making the decisions, I am making the rules. I just know that what was happening so rapidly. They did not discard me. They were a part of the loop of everything. So, but to make these strong decisions, they just had to be made parentally. And my nieces and nephew, everyone knows me. The funny thing is this: they don't know that I rule the way that I rule, that I am serious about doing things. Right. Because they haven't lived with me. They just know the Aunt Marcel who comes home with gifts and food and presents and love. That's what they know. They don't know me in ministry or living 35 years. Between 20 years old and 50, I'm another person. So they don't know me like you know me. Right. I'm not me. I'm not real. They don't know that person, because when you go home, you're just in love with everybody. Right. I got presents for everybody. I just want to be nice, and but coming home to the circumstances of my mother and her second set of children, because to me they were more than my nieces and nephews. They were her children, and she was their mom. She was their grandmother, but really their mom. So I am very careful, but we're not playing about my mother's health. Right. That's the thing. Like I said, I ended up taking my nephew in and, keeping him with me. The girls were grown, so they could stay in the house that they were in. It was more so about my mom. We're going to move my mother, because then but we can talk about that, of making the choice to either keep her in the house or to put her in a
well, let's talk about that. So you made the choice to put her in a facility. How did you come to that decision? Because there are people out there who may have to make that decision about what they're gonna do with their loved one. Are we gonna keep them at home, or are we gonna put them in a facility? For you, what was the determining factor for why you did what you did, and how you housed your mother?
Okay, the determining factor, me and my youngest brother, Reese, he was a part of my mom's life forever. And for him, his words to me was, Mars, we could take care of her. We can take care of her ourselves, because he really, really, he loved my mom. We both loved her. And this was just thinking about, because her stroke did not debilitate her, it's just like her memory, she's slower. And then now dementia is also setting in it was like it all was happening at the same time. But he wanted we could just take turns. We can come and, watch her all day. But I knew I couldn't, because I have also a son who's autistic, and I'm just moving back. I'm not only home 6 months. I'm still navigating being back into the city, trying to adjust, like I said in the beginning, of my circumstances and situations. So, but his love was like, we can do this. But one thing I realized was, I don't know how to take care of a stroke patient. I don't know what to do. What does this entail? So my first thing, though, before I, like I said, putting her in a nursing home, before we did all of that, it was, let's find facilities that she can go to, like a daycare, or they have facilities for adults where they can go in and still work with other people. You're not isolating them or taking them out of the world or out of their home. It was important to me that she not be taken out of her own environment first. So let's get things in place for her to be picked up every day, to be taken to this place. It was on Broad and Vine, I think, Broad and Venango. It was a facility where you come in, you do arts and crafts, you do things. And it's also a medical facility that if anything happens to her, she's right there with her doctor, with everything that she needs. But yet for 8 hours, she is enjoying life with other people, still talking to other adults and not being isolated as a patient, because it wasn't looked at like that. She could still be, even though she's over here doing crafts or singing or whatever, there's also her day of time. Okay, she needs her physical now. We need to see what's going on. That was the first thing, because I didn't want to just uproot her from the grandchildren, her second set of children, or take her out of her home and put her in a new environment. So that was the beginning. But even that was limited, because then another stroke happened. Now this facility is not for what now is happening to her physically. Another stroke happens, and now things are changing. So then I had to look into, okay, we need to find a facility. But it was not easy. But I did find the village was my sister-in-law, Robin, who had the resources. I had resources, and that was it. And it was all in the family, because she was someone who could help me find the best place for my mom, because I didn't want her to be where she lived. She lived in South Philly, which it's not a bad area, but it just wasn't, I'm kind of girly, if I could say it like that, but I wanted her to look out the window and see trees and grass and, things like that. I didn't want her to look out the window and see buildings and stone and things like that. So to look for a really, really good place, that was important to me.
That's one thing that we have to consider when we're thinking about our loved ones is, it's about them and the comfort. If we're going to keep them, we want to make sure that they're comfortable. And it sounds like that you took a lot of thought into, or you put a lot of thought into making your mom comfortable, even though she may or may not have been able to really enjoy it all. You wanted to make sure that if there was some time that she was able to enjoy it, that she had it right there to be able to enjoy it. So let me ask you this question. Now, caregiving kind of comes with a lot of emotional challenges. And can you talk about some of the challenges besides the family? I get it and I understand that the family was... they had their ideas and their thoughts about what was going on and, what you did and how you did it or whatever. But what were some of the challenges that you had to deal with? Was it seeing your mother in that state, or not being able to be there all the time, or just the idea that you could not keep her at your own place or your own home? Emotionally, what were some of those challenges and how did you deal with them?
It was hard. It is hard watching your parent decline. And I had a 3-story house and she stopped walking. I didn't have I don't know. It's all new water. You don't know all of your resources. You don't know what to do. I just knew that I had to do something. It was, emotionally, it was challenging. Again, it's only 6 months of me moving home. I still have my own son. I have my nephew now. I have my mom to think about. Even my nieces. They're everybody's welfare I thought about. Everybody. So it's really, I'm her caregiver, but now I'm caregiving for this 12-year-old. It was all encompassing, and it was a lot. It was a lot, but I thank the Lord that I guess He made me kind of tough and durable. Not that I'm invincible, and it's not that I don't break down and cry or think that it's a lot, but I can organize things to where I'm not so overwhelmed, and I have God and I have prayer. So all of that was a factor of my life, of the way how I made it through. I had church. I had my spiritual life with God is my rock and my foundation. That's the thing I believe that gets me through everything, because even though, like I said, I have my nieces, my nephew, I've disrupted everybody's life because I had to make changes. So I won't say I did it. The circumstances caused things to change. My mom has to be taken away. Her children are no longer with her. She's not with them anymore. All these dynamics are great, and I happen to be the one who comes in and makes final decisions. So as a caregiver, you got to be strong, because even though your family might not say anything, conversations are going on, things happen. So it's really a matter of staying your course of what's best for the person, because it really wasn't about me, but I just knew I also had to be careful of not taking on thinking I am the hero for everyone. It was truly about my mom, and making sure that she could get the best care to try to save her life. And that's the bottom line. Even though I have a 12-year-old, he's 12, he's strong, he's going to be okay. My nieces, everybody's world is turned upside down, but ultimately the person who has the medical condition has to be priority.
Right. So can you walk me through, I know she wasn't at your home, but she was at a facility. Can you kind of talk to me or walk us through what a day in a life might have been like as you were, whenever you went to visit? What was it like?
Sure. In the beginning, it was nice. In the beginning, it was fun. You get your rules, you get your marching orders from the facility. They let you understand that you're going to about everyone's position. She will be having her medical care. She'll be having her psychological care. She'll be having they have different programs inside. You make accommodations for her to get her hair done. They have a beauty shop in the facility. It was very nice. Fairview, I believe is what it was called. She passed in 2020, but it was called Fairview, and it was a nice facility. Like I said, I made sure that her hair was done once a week. Those are the light things. They teach you about bringing in clothing, making sure she has her own clothes. We bought her clothes. You have to label everything like you're in a daycare center. It's very interesting. But in the day, in the beginning, like I said, it was new and it was fun even for her. You're meeting people, and you're in the I call it the great room, the room where everybody socializes. You got your TVs, your tables. You can look outside, out the windows. You can see the trees, the sun, and all of that. And all of that, and people are contacting you. Now, one thing I'll say about this facility, the staff, everybody's on point. I never had a problem in the 8 years that she was in there with anyone having an issue with me calling or coming. But we always made sure that they knew that June Maddox had family and she was never alone. Because you hear horror stories about people being neglected and things like that. But we were always up there. If I wasn't there, my oldest brother was there. Her children, her second set of children were always there. Family, friends, anytime her family would come in, whoever lived out of town, my uncles, everyone, she had a presence in that facility because we wanted them to know that she's not up in here unattended to. But it was okay in the beginning. And then I think when she would come to herself, she was like, I want to go home now. I want to go home. And it was like, oh my God, you are home. You don't know that 922 West, wherever she used to live, I can't think of the street, that's no longer her home. So that begins to weigh on you. When you leave, when you're with her, you're fine. But when you leave and realize after a while, she wanted to go home. She didn't want to be there anymore. It was like, okay, vacation's over, let's go home. So that was a lot. When I had to leave her and realize she didn't want to be there anymore, because her mindset, she could come to herself and be like, oh, okay, today is, I don't want to be here. So that it got harder after a while. And then she began to get ornery, attitude, angry, hitting people. This beautiful church mother is now becoming she running the place now, but she was changing. The dementia was changing her. So And again, let me say this: the first year, the 3 strokes happened. They did not even think she was going to live past the first year because she had a lot of challenges. And I'm getting calls 1 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock at night. We had to take your mom to the hospital because this happened. We had to take your mom to the hospital because that happened. So, and these are serious. Call your family to come in, because we don't know what's going to happen after this surgery or after this happens. So it was so touch and go that first year. But I do believe that prayer, God hears what's best, because it's not like she did not want to die. It wasn't like nothing like that. So my prayer was, Lord, heal her. Let's see what we can get. Everybody pray. We want all prayers to go up, because this was really touch and go. It was really, really scary the first year. And then after a while, we realized, okay, 1 year down, 2 years down. She lived 8 years after that first year. So that was pretty cool.
Wow. 8 years. For it to be touch and go for that first year, and then to have another 7 years, that really was the grace and mercy of God. And, giving the family more time with her, and of course that's up to them to take it, the time that God had given with them. Can you share with me a moment that reaffirmed that what you did, and everything that you did, it was worth it? Just, a moment that, you're like, you know what? Regardless of what happened, I'm so glad that we did this for mom, or I did this for mom, or this happened for mom. Is there a moment that you can think of?
When I look back, I think, of course, she got 8 more years of her life because of the decision to do this. Also, her second set of children, her grandchildren, got to see her and spend 8 more years with her. I don't think anything for myself mattered because of the decisions I had to make, not just on my own. I didn't go rogue. I had my brother, I had my sister-in-law, and I even, I would talk to my nieces and nephews, but ultimately I knew that I had to make decisions. Financially, you make these decisions, but never without someone knowing what I was doing. But the bonus for me is that I kept the family together, but 8 years mattered. And by the time she passed, we had 8 years to put things in place, to get things set. Because unfortunately, Dr. Brown, had she passed that first year, there would have been no money. We would have had to get her funeral together financially, because there was nothing in place for her, So for 8 years, all of her Social Security, everything was in place, that by the time she passed, we didn't have to ask anybody to help us to bury her, to do anything. Everything was in place and easy. The only grief that we had was that we lost her. Right. But it wasn't grief of I didn't have to do a GoFundMe, and I'm not putting that down, but I'm just thankful that we did not have to do anything. It was almost like she took care of her own self. By the end, it was just her Social Security that covered everything. But the 8 years that we had, that was worth it all.
Wow. Well, you said that, that she had 8 years, and I would imagine even before you. So you said that prior to her passing, a lot of stuff, and especially in the first year, wasn't put into place. But by the time that she did pass, things were put into place. What were some of the difficult conversations that you had to have with family members and healthcare providers, even as you were going through that and getting to that phase? I mean, I would imagine that, in the first years, it was probably pretty bad. Like, Maybe I shouldn't say it was probably pretty bad, but maybe the conversations were more difficult in the first years because had she passed in the first year or so. But did they come? Did the conversations become easier because you knew things were in place or were going to be in place?
Um, I don't think it's so much more about conversations being in place, but
Any
I think
difficult conversations that you had to have?
the difficult conversations I were, of course, what's going to happen to the children. Well, they're grown, they're really adults, they're not kids. My nephew was a lot. He was, because he's 12, and I really could not take care of him. I had a hard time. I kept him for 19 months, 18 or 19 months, because it was like I said, I am going through a lot in my own family, and I took him because there was no one else who would take him, because they don't have the conditions to raise this 12-year-old, and that's a whole nother ball game. But
Sounds like
but
you're a caregiver all over the place for your nephew,
yes,
for the
like I
son, for the
said,
mother. It sounds like you have had a life kind of
yeah, we think about caregiving, and you do just think about taking care of this one person, and that is true, and that's a lot. I know your situation, and you have this dynamic, but and I didn't even think about it until really like now talking with you about this, that I had to care for a lot of people. I'm about to cry. I had much to care for, and my own personal life almost gets set aside because of the dynamics that are changing. And it's not that they could not have, you try to give people a pass of what they do, and I want to think that they could have done it without me, but I don't think it would have got done. That's why I believe it was that time for me to go home was the hand of the Lord, because of what I could do, and because I could gather the resources to help my mom. Again, I can think, like I said, I have my son, I have my nephew, I have my own personal life, I have my 2 nieces, but ultimately, my mom had 3 strokes, and my mom's now diabetic, and my mom's doing all these things. Oh, going back to something you said, the last question you said, the decline, the downfall, the hard part for me was as she got more and more of the dementia and ornery, she refused to take her medication. And even, I believe, prayer girded her throughout the times, because she probably at year 5 years, maybe, no, that's not true. At year 3, I think, she stopped taking her medication. She was done. She's like, I'm not taking any more pills for diabetes, for cholesterol, for anything. She's taking no more meds to keep her alive, to keep her organs healthy. And that was the hard thing. That was the hardest conversation that I had with her, her therapist, her doctor, the psychologist, and now we went from that to palliative care. Even there was a smidgen of time when she was on hospice. All of this happened within 2 years now, because she's no longer taking her meds, and they let me know. The words from her doctor and therapist, psychologist, everyone who I talked to, they wanted to let me understand, even though your mother looks good on the outside, and even though she's talking and she's laughing about things, your mother's organs are shutting down because she refuses now to help herself. So they were just letting me know that really she could pass at any time, because her kidneys are no longer functioning properly, her lungs, nothing internally is being taken care of to help her, to give her life. So and that was their reiteration, even though I come in, oh, she looks good today, hey, she's laughing, she's cussing people out now. It was crazy. But things are happening. They kept wanting me to understand, your mom looks nice, but we want you to understand her internal organs are shutting down. which means they're letting me know she will pass away. It could be today, but it happened like it was probably 5 more years later from that point. So that was hard because you never know when you're going to get the call that she passed. So from 2012 till 2020, those were our, that's how long it took for, even though she stopped taking meds, 5 years of no medication. She lived 5 more years. So had she taken her meds, she might still be, she died during COVID because of that. So she could have lived longer. I don't know. But that was the hardest thing, thinking about that, of having that conversation with the doctor. So I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So what would be your advice to someone who's new to or newly stepping into the caregiving role? What advice would you give them to make their lives easier? Or because we know that every situation is different, every relationship, every caregiving situation is different, but is there some bit of advice that you would give someone who's newly stepping into that role that could possibly help them as they navigate that caregiving role?
I think what I would tell people is surround yourself with people and who understand where you are, and to not take things personal and take time for yourself, especially when it's a family member. There's a difference of being a caregiver, I think, as your profession versus being a caregiver of a family member that you're deciding to take care of. Because if it's your job, you're not connected emotionally. You can love what you do because you can love people. But when it's your family member, you're attached. There's a different connection. So I would tell them, take a lot of time for yourself. Do not consume your entire life in the situation, because most of the time it doesn't end with roses and butterflies. It's going to end with the life being gone. And you must be careful, because when that comes, if you've given all of your life and time to that, when it's over, now you've got to regroup and figure out who you are again. So I believe I would tell them to continue you having a life, and don't think that it's all about you. Like, I never felt like I had to make these decisions in the sense of, if I don't do it, it's not going to be right. I never felt like that. I was the only person that seemingly would make the decisions. But don't think that, allow the other family members to have a say if there are more family members involved. But ultimately, I would tell them, do not make that your project, to where when this person transitions, you don't know what to do with your own life, and make sure that that is something that you keep yourself aware of. I think the caregiver needs a caregiver. I think caregivers need their own counselors to keep them in a space. For me, though, yes, it was my mom, but ultimately she went into a facility. So I had a short period of time with her at home. And that's a difference as well. That almost, if I could use the word blessing, was a blessing, because I also had the other issues. It wasn't like it was just my mom. I had my nephew, like I said, I had my son, I have my grandchildren, I have 3 grandchildren. Everyone's in my space now. So I would tell them to surround yourself with people, and don't think that you have to make every decision, and don't make it about you. I would tell them that. Don't make it about, let someone else make a decision. And if it's not a medical decision, let them have it. And let me say this. I would also say, Allow, assess the person that that you're caregiving for. I'm really big on uh, them doing things on their own still. Letting them continue to dress themselves. Don't act like it's just like with autism. If I can stick this in there, because a person has a disability or a difference, or they had strokes or things like that, find where they can still maintain their way of life, and let them continue to live in their way. If you see that they like going outside, let them sit on the porch, let them breathe, let them have air. Don't let them stay in a closed up environment, because that's not healthy. But these are just things that I noticed. Let them sit on the porch. Let them get some cold air on their face if you live in that environment. Let them still have as much quality of life as they can have. But
Yeah, I I know that with my mom, whenever I go over to visit, I do try to, it's because I see how the decline. Sometimes I want to just step in and do it for her, but I have to realize that if I take away all of her independence, right? If I take away all of her independence, then I feel like I could be rushing her demise.
Yes.
They still needs, and she still needs to feel like that she can do something on her own. Because I know with my mom, she's never felt like she wanted to be a burden to anyone. And because she's so used to doing things on her own and for herself, the idea or the fact that she can't do them on her own and for herself, I can't pretend to think for her, but I would say that it's like, what am I here for if, number one, if I can't do it, on my own, and I don't want to be a burden to anybody else. And I know for my mom, I feel like that she did everything on her own, so that she wouldn't be a burden to anybody. And I've actually heard her say that on a few occasions about not wanting to be a burden to anybody. And as a matter of fact, one time I was like, I'm sure that we was a burden to you, so so what, you're a burden to me for a minute, and try to change the whole mood, and to make her laugh, and to make her, like, it's not a big deal, Mom, don't worry about it. And so, and I know with me and my mom, and I know we're talking about your mom, but with me and my mom, we, if I can make her laugh, and and I can, and I've found lately that I'm, hugging on her and loving on her a whole lot more, so that because I want that to be something that she can remember when she's by herself, or when the kids aren't around, when nobody else is around. That's what I want her to remember. That's what I want her to remember, that that somebody loves me, somebody cares for me, somebody is there for me. So so having people around, of all of those people that were around, and the support systems that you had access to, what helped you the most in your role as a caregiver? Was it having the family around? Was it knowing that there were resources? Or just the fact that you knew that you had done the best that you could with putting your mom in a place, and now all you could do essentially was just let life be life?
And I think that's the thing. I think for me, it was, I did my best, and I have learned in life that your best might not be good enough for others, but it is your best. And all I could do was my best. I wasn't trying to come home and be the Calvary. I wasn't trying to come home. I was just coming home.
Right.
I was just like, I just want to come home. So when we know who we are, also, when we know our abilities and what we're sent to do in life, we're only going to do the best for anyone. It was my mom, but I love your mom. If I lived around you and your mom now, I would be there. I'd be like, I'm taking her for a walk today. And so it's not even
Not
just
today.
about
Today it's like 14 degrees. So not
oh, we ain't going out today. I'll open up a window, give her a little fresh air,
today.
close the
Right?
window. But
I'm gonna get over there today to see her. I am today gonna get over there to see her and take her some dinner. So it doesn't matter.
but I did my best. I have nothing else that I can give. I did my best. We're trying to figure this thing out, and I do believe the only thing that I can keep saying is I believe what I did gave her 8 more years of living to put her
Yeah.
in the facility because she chose. It was her choice. It was her choice to stop taking her medication. She didn't do that because she was unaware. It was her choice. Even though dementia came in, and dementia did come in even stronger, but she made a choice before she lost all of her cognitive ability to stop taking her meds. So
Mm.
technically, she was making her choice for her life, expectancy. That was her choice. So yes, we can pray, but when a person, if you're not going to do what you know to do to expand your life, you have to respect people's choices. Like I think about my nieces and nephews, and they love me. They don't hate me. They love Aunt Marcel, but and sometimes we think harder on ourselves than other people think about us because I'm close with everybody. We all talk because I am a person who gets down to the brass tacks of things. Did I offend you? I don't mean to offend you because I'm always about making peace with everyone. So I do know they've been out here to visit me. That was just a moment in time, and I don't abandon anyone. So I did my best. That's it. But let me say this. I think was a big deal. Like you said, you have these memories. I'm a memory keeper. So I would tell another thing that I would tell people, make memories, take pictures, take videos for you after they're gone. Take laughter, sit down with them and tell funny jokes together. Comb each other's hair. Let her comb your hair and make a mess of it. Have moments that you can laugh about after they're gone. If that's what it comes to. Make memories. Take pictures. Take funny things. Make things funny. Me and my brother were talking literally just yesterday about something that my mother, for some reason, thought that my sister-in-law was married to my other brother. But yeah, she would, and my mother thought that was the funniest thing, saying Robert was married to Reggie, and she would just bust out laughing. And she believed it, but she thought it was the craziest thing. But I have video footage of me and my mother singing Christian songs, singing her favorite hymns. My mother's favorite hymn is "I Come to the Garden Alone," in the garden. My mother was a classical piano player, and she loved the hymns. I have video footage now that I can share with her bonus children. I have video footage. I have pictures of things. So now that she's gone, no, I can send pictures of this is y'all with your great grandmother, and this is who your great grandmother was. So my youngest granddaughter's 5. She doesn't know Yaya. They call her Yaya. So but she can now see this is your heritage. So I would tell people who are also caring for others, make memories. Take pictures, take little video footages, take little snippets, make funny things happen. Let them dress themselves in I'm going to say psychedelic. I'm dating myself. Let them dress themselves backwards and take a picture of it and laugh about it when they're gone. This is what your grandmother was putting on.
You mentioned something there, and my mom, she, raised in the church. She raises in the church, so because she was raised in the church. And the one thing that I know I can get her with is ice cream and good gospel music, right? So as long as we, when she's kind of down a little bit, I'll go, let me see if I can find you some gospel music, or I'll ask her, do you want me to put you some music on? And she go, yeah, and sometimes it doesn't do have the expected result that I was looking for. Yeah. And other times I'll see her where she's bouncing a little bit and patting a little bit. And I guess it was about a week or so ago, I actually got her up, and she, because she used to be the shouter in the church. As a matter of fact, when we were kids, our cousins and stuff, they used to laugh at us and well, tease us, going, Big O, she was shouting today, right? So she was the one. So to not see her active and for her not to be able to be active like that, it's, it's kind of disheartening. So whenever I can get her up on her feet and get her moving and get her, moving around and bouncing around a little bit, those are memories that
Yes.
that we're making together. Our walks, they're memories that we're making together. Having ice cream, and after dinner, after dinner, I can always get her with desserts. So, and if something's not going right or as it would normally go if she had all her faculties, we laugh about it. I'll make it a laugh. I'll make it something that we can laugh about it, and I'll hug her at the same time and kiss her on the cheek and let her know that it's all right. Don't worry about it. I'm there for you. And the one thing that she'll say is, I know you are.
And that's beautiful. Absolutely. Because I will say this, they know something's changing about them. And in the beginning, you do know it's dementia. You know it could be Alzheimer's. They're still cognizant of things. Even though the dementia can go off for a moment, there's still a time when they know who they are and they know where they are. And it's a fearful thing. Listen, I am 61. I keep forgetting what I want. I keep forgetting what did I want to come into this room and do.
Right.
And it's for real. It's a real thing now. It ain't funny when you're 20 and be like, what am I coming here for?
Right.
So I'm like, I don't even remember. For real.
So
for them, they know that this thing is scary. It's scary for them, and they know that this isn't going to get better. It's almost like The Notebook. That story about the Notebook. He just made so many memories to cause her to remember the things that they did together as a husband and wife. But that's why I say, make videos. And even like I said, if she likes the church music and she used to dance, I would say, if y'all just in the kitchen one day, put on some fast church music and say, Mama, show me how you used to dance. Show me how God want me to praise him. That's how my brain works,
Right. Well, I can't get her to dance fast, but if I can just get her to move, I'm happy
Yes,
with
but I'm
this
saying,
getting get her to move. But we will, so we would do that, and then I remember a phase where she stopped being able to do that and move around or whatever. So, but then last week when she was able to actually get up again and move around, even though her toe was hurt, she got up and she felt well enough to get up and actually do something. So I try to make memories with her whenever, and more than making memories with her. And I know this is your story, but since I'm the host, I get to tell a few. But I just want her to know that she's not a burden. I want to know that she's loved, she's cared for, and sometimes I'll go over and she's like, I know you're tired, go home. And she's just like, but I'm glad you came. So the fact that, and I carve out 2-3 hours, I know that when I go over to cook dinner or to do whatever it is I went over to do, that my time could change. My life could change. She could, I could get ready to leave, and she could say that trigger phrase, "You leaving now?"
Yeah.
That's the trigger that she's not ready for me to leave. And so I'm like, okay, all right. Since you're not ready for me to leave, I guess I'm not leaving right now. So I guess I'm staying here for a little while longer. And and once she gets tired and she's ready to, turn in, and it's been too much stimulation for her.
Yeah, she wants you to go when it's
right.
You leaving now? Okay, this is okay.
Right. So, what have we been, about 55 minutes? Let's wrap up here. We don't have to, because we can continue talking. I want to be respectful of your time. But if you could share one message with caregivers listening right now, what would it be? I know you've already given us some good sage advice to first-time caregivers, but what would be your overall message to caregivers?
Thank you for having me. This is wonderful, and I would love to come back again and talk about caregiving on autism spectrum. But what I would tell anyone is, if you are the caregiver, I believe you're qualified to do it. I believe God has given you a strength to be able to do it. A lot of times, I've heard many stories about people have 4 siblings, 3, 10. Only one person seems to become the caregiver for some strange reason. Everybody is okay. Everybody loves the parent, but everybody does not have that heart to know, to go that extra. And I would tell everyone in a family who has siblings, or, who they all talk the game, but they're not the called. So be encouraged, and don't be angry with your family who don't want to do what you think they should do because it's their mom too, or their dad, or their brother or sister. I truly do believe, only because I've heard it over and over, nobody wants to help. Nobody wants to help. I believe you're the one called to do it, and you might have to find outside help. But don't get angry with your siblings. Don't be in despair. God called you, and you have the strength to take that family member from this point where you're at until either they get better or the transition happens. But don't take it personally, and don't be angry. You're the one that's called, and you're the one qualified.
I really appreciate you saying that, because I agree with you. I'll say this. God prepares you, and he puts you in a role, and everybody's life is not the same. Everybody's calling is not the same. If they could have, or would have, or were supposed to be the one, then they would have been the one there. And so I think if caregivers can hold on to that thought that, okay, it must have been for me, and not take it personal. There's a scripture that my mom uses, I use, and I'm sure you have used several times. And I think it's fitting for caregivers. And it says, "Be not weary in doing, for in due season you'll reap if you do not faint." And so I agree with you on that. And that's something that I want to say to caregivers. Do not faint, because in due season you will reap what God has for you. And somebody has to do it. And if the other ones in the family are not doing it, who will? And so if that's you, then that's you. And do it. And don't be weary in your doing. Just do it. It's gonna be okay. I think that's it. What do you have? Anything else you want to talk about today before we wrap this up?
No, I will say you will get weary, and you will get tired, and you will get frustrated, and you will feel everything probably on the spectrum. But feel it and keep moving. Keep going. Tomorrow's coming. In this day, it was hard, and your days will be different. You're literally watching. See, my mother, I had to go visit her. You're seeing your mother every day with her change. And it is scary, it's painful, it's hard when you remember a vibrant woman, you're a vibrant Olivia. You remember all of that, and you remember the one who told you to sit down and be quiet and love God. And now they turn into children. I've seen many reels on TikTok and things where my parents are now my children, and that's really what's happening. you become, you come in as a baby and you leave as a baby.
That's it. That's the way you say your baby, man once, baby twice, or child
Baby,
twice.
absolutely.
Um,
So,
and
but
my
you're going to
dad
get
used to
weary.
say when I first started being helping with my mom,
Yeah.
uh, you didn't have kids, but you do have kids. I guess we're your kids. I was like, that's a lot of pressure,
Lots of pressure, girlfriend. Lots of pressure. But if I could leave you with anything, yes, you're going to get tired. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to feel everything. And let it be okay. Just try, but just get over it. Find yourself to help also. If it's taken a long time, if it's years that you're involved in this, you're going to need help. You're going to need someone to boost you, and take time, take your vacations, go away for the weekend. Don't think that they need you just because, like you said, oh, you're going to leave because you're coming back. And that's
Right.
your refueling. That is you rejuvenating yourself. Go away for the weekend. Go laugh. Go have fun. Get away from the pressure of, it's hard. This is my mom, but you still have to do what you do. Make sure that they're taking care of it. That's what you need to do. But keep your life and laugh. Also, make yourself laugh. Laugh all the time, because you don't want to get into serious environments for years and years and years. And by the time it's over, you're a mean person, or you're so wore out from what has happened that you can't function back again. You cannot come back into society and be like, whew, I did that. And that's the takeaway. I did that. And I have no regrets. I don't.
And we'll end with this. The one thing you
Yeah.
talked about earlier, and you're kind of on that vein right now, is take care of yourself. And the one thing I'll say, and you'll hear me say it over and over again on this podcast, self-care is not selfish. So it's the best thing that you can do for your loved one is to take care of yourself, so that you can come back and be a much better caregiver. On that, we're going to, on that note, we are going to thank Dr. Marcel Williams for joining us today. And we're going to have you back on the show again. And this time we're going to talk about your being a caregiver for your son who had autism. And I know that's a full story. That's a totally different thing. And we want to talk about that. We want to talk about the fact that you have a book out called Raising Isaiah. So I want you to go out there and get that book called Raising Isaiah. I'll show you a copy of it. You'll have a copy of it. You'll be able to see. There you go. She has a Raising Isaiah. Very
Yes.
good, very good. So we want you to go out there and get your copy of Raising Isaiah, because this dynamic woman has been a caregiver for her nephew, her mother, and her son. And once again, thank you for joining us for the Caregivers Collective and hearing the story of Dr. Marcel Williams. We'll see you again on the next episode of the Caregivers Collective. Thanks again and goodbye. Don't forget to get your copy of Raising Isaiah. Go to Amazon.com and search for Raising Isaiah, or you may scan the QR code.